Welcome back. We're back. Okay, segment 2. I get to grill you now.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
Looking forward to it. Got my forehand, my backhand, overhead smash ready. We're all good.
Perfect. So we're going to talk about how to keep a positive relationship with your sellers in a long-term listing, which
I've never had a long-term listing.
I mean, me neither. No, we're just perfect over here.
I'm just going to wing it.
Everything sells in a day or two. Boom.
Absolutely.
No. Not reality. So obviously we're dealing with longer days on market in this environment that we're in right now. So how are you keeping positive relationship with your sellers?
Well, for me, it always started when I first met them and explaining the whole process, getting the market realities out to them, making them understand, showing them average days on market. So when we're sitting at 76 days, you know, obviously some are selling up beyond that, some are selling quicker. So it allowed me to be able to talk to about making sure the listing was done as best as possible. Priced correctly for the market, reacting, talking about how the market's going to evolve. We're trending down, so we need to be prepared for that if we are on longer. And then it came down to really that so important when you're in a challenging market with a seller is communication and talking to them consistently. What's the biggest complaint we always used to hear, or still hear, if you're out on a listing, is my last agent stuck a sign on the lawn and I never heard from them unless they were booking a showing, and then, you know, at 200 days we finally got an offer, it wasn't any good, blah, 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 and it's always the agent's fault. We know that. Always the agent's fault. Yeah. So how do you counteract that? And good communication skills, having that weekly phone call, probably at least once a month, a face-to-face to go over everything. When I was making that weekly call and chatting with the client, you know, giving feedback that we could get from showings, letting them know, yes, I did phone everyone. If we didn't have any showings, talking about what happened in the marketplace this week, review economic news that might be coming out. So when we see, like a couple of months ago when the Canadian oil price was down at, you know, into the teens, that really affected our marketplace. But we need to tell them about that so they understand what's going on. We're not putting excuses out there, we're just communicating market realities. Right. So talking about all our positive marketing that we've been doing. So when is my next open house scheduled? And if I can't do it, that I'm getting someone in. Do I do a realtor caravan? What social media I've been doing with all of the tools that we provide to them. So let them know that you're out there working. Right. They have a lot more respect, one, if you're communicating, two, they know you're trying as hard as you can. At the end of the day, there may come to that time where we have to say to our client, what do you want to do? What is their sense of urgency? If they'd like to sell and trade up, but they can't get what they want, they may be fine with taking it off the market and revisiting it when the market starts to turn. And if they're the lower price model, it'll turn first and we can still maybe get it sold before the higher priced one they wanted to move in has started to adjust. Right. But talking to them about what their goals are and understanding it and where we can move within the listing and talking to them and talking to them and talking to them is so important. I've had listings, I can remember one, it was over 6 months, we took it off the market. They relisted with us a year and a half later because the market was right and everything flowed quickly. We were in a much better marketplace and we listed it, it sold quickly, they got the house they wanted, and they've done other transactions with us over time as well. So you don't necessarily lose your relationship if the house doesn't sell. If they know you've done everything they can and we just can't achieve your goal, so it's okay to take it off the market. But what do we do after that point? We still stay in touch. Yes. We talk about what's going on. Having those valuable conversations and staying in touch and saying, here's what's, and we're going to let you know when we think the market's starting to move and if you want to relist at that time. And you don't lose your client. It's tough out there though when you have a long listing and you keep going, and they go, well, we haven't had a showing in 3 weeks. We need to get in there and have our face-to-face, I think, at that time. Yeah. How did you deal with it a lot? Because we all run into it. Yeah, we all run into it. So I think what you're talking about as far as like setting expectations, again, just like with lowball offers,
with your sellers, you have to really manage that up front. And then I love what you're saying about communicating with them every week, staying in touch with them. Something that I used when I was communicating with my sellers every week, so I did that on Mondays. I don't know why, that was just the day
Mine
I
was
chose
Thursdays.
to do.
Yeah.
So on Mondays, I would reach out to all of my sellers. One of the things I used was the hit counters on Kreb. So I don't know if you've ever looked at that, but you can look at, there's a button that says hit counters underneath your total active listings on Kreb, and it will tell you how many people have been sent the property, how many people have favorited your property, how many people have it as a possibility, all those things. And I found that sellers were really interested in seeing the numbers change week to week. And that was a good way for them to feel like people were actively actually looking at the property. The other resource that I used was on the CREA site. So if you're in KrebLink, you can click to your CREA DDF, I think is what it's called, yeah. And on that site, you can see how many people have viewed the property on different types of devices and on different websites and stuff. So your sellers are getting information that people are seeing their home. And then you can combine that with, if you're not getting showings, why aren't we getting showings if, 300 people looked at it? So that's another question that you can start to kind of go down that path. And I have agents often that are coming into my office and saying, "Hey, can you look at this listing? Just tell me what you think of it, like off the top of your head." Or agents asking other agents in the office just to get fresh eyes on it. Because if it is getting stagnant, you want to maybe look at, do you need new pictures? Has the season
You mean
changed?
if it's summer and green grass and leaves, we probably shouldn't have that in January?
Exactly. Or, just different eyeballs on the property, going through the photos and saying, "Ooh, like that picture might not be super flattering, but you didn't recognize it because you've been in the home so many times. You can visualize what it looks like, but the picture for some reason makes it look weird or small or whatever." So just having fresh eyes on it, I think, is valuable. So, make a friend at CIR, there's lots of us, and just get fresh eyes on it. Have someone else read your blurb and look at the pictures.
How can I improve it?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Not everyone has all the answers, so
no, exactly.
use all the minds together and you'll come up with more things.
Yeah.
The other thing I used to find is when I was talking to them, they want to know what's going on in the market. So I always talked about what new listings have come on. Has anything gone under contract? If it did go under contract, who was the buying realtor? Did they show our property?
Yeah.
And I never had a problem phoning them and saying, "I saw you guys bought one 3 blocks over. Was it the buyer you brought through ours?" I want to be able to tell my client. And if you can share what made them choose that property over mine.
Right.
And then at least when you're talking about it and you're now talking to your seller and saying, "This was the issue that came up." And they go, "I don't understand it. We've had 20 showings and nobody's written an offer." Well, if your feedback's been positive, maybe a small price tweak at that point or different things, but also you can reference theirs. How many houses did they look at every time they've gone to buy?
Right.
And some of them it's 25, 30, 40 before they pulled the trigger.
Right.
And say, same thing can be happening. What if this is only their first house they saw?
Right. Yeah.
But allow me, when I'm staying in touch, I will call, I called back all the people that showed it in the last 30 days. Is your buyer still active? Did you, was our property? And if they had said my first call back, there was interest, saying try and reintroduce the property to the realtor, because we all know buyers forget. They might say, "Oh, that'll be on my list of favorites,"
right?
But they have too many, and it goes out of their mind.
So how do you bring it back to their attention?
So try and bring it back.
Yeah. Well, and with feedback, I find feedback is so valuable, and I would not leave that up to the Showing Time app. I know that it does automatically send out. It's not enough. You don't get enough responses. To me, that is the best resource that you have for understanding why your property's not selling. And again, because you've been in the property probably several times at that point, if you're the type of agent that does the real estate reviews, you've been in there for years and years, so you almost become accustomed to what their home looks like. It's hard to come in with fresh eyes.
It always smells this bad and there's underwear on the floor.
Yeah, it seems normal. So I think feedback, and I mean, you don't want to hound the other agent, but it is so valuable in this market. You need to get it if you can. Calling the other agents, texting them, whatever is the easiest way to get it out of them. And if there is a consistent theme, because in this market, buyers have so much selection.
They get confused.
They get confused, and you know, the perfect house could exist, but it's yellow walls instead of gray walls, but aside from that, everything's perfect. But because there's so much availability out there, they can just go find one with gray walls, and then they don't have to worry about it.
Well, and I think we find the skill level of the realtor on the other side.
Yeah.
If they're newer, you can say, well, you know, I've faced that a lot too. Here's some of the things I've done. And take that chance to, one, improve your relationship, but help the other realtor at the same time, maybe getting them back in. Or if you're having a challenge landing, or if you said they really liked it and it was, you know, but they haven't come back and you're going out to look at a few, why don't you put a bunch of new ones on that you're going to go see this week, put mine back on as well.
Right.
And say, come through it, because quite often, when a buyer comes back through the second time, they look at it less emotionally.
Right.
So if they go, you know what, this really does work, and now they can look past the yellow walls instead of gray, and they question them. What are the things you would want to change? And teach them how to work with a buyer a little bit sometimes can be really helpful. And now when I have the conversation, or you have your conversation with your seller, you say, I spoke to the agent, these were some of the things I said. And they really understand that you are doing absolutely everything you can to try and get this sold, because they understand in the back of their mind that we don't get paid till the house sells. So, but we still need to demonstrate our value all the way through the process.
Right.
Even if it ends up that we take the property off, we still demonstrate our value by staying in touch after.
Yeah, and if you can set those expectations, and you know the property doesn't sell for whatever reason, then if you have managed that properly and you've serviced them well, while it might not be the right time for them to sell and you might have to pull it off the market or whatever, down the road, if you did your job properly, they understand that it wasn't you. Like, it wasn't your lack of effort or your lack of trying to sell this property. It's just that, you know, the market conditions with their needs, whatever those are, just didn't work right now. But that doesn't mean that you're not the right person for the job.
Absolutely, and I think they truly respect you as a professional. And sometimes we get to that point where the recommendation is, we should take this off the market. Are you guys okay with that? But if they have to sell, they have to sell.
Yes.
So we work all the way through the process.
And if they're in that position where they have to sell no matter what, I suggest really looking at the stats and the days on market. The average days on market is so important that you really need to pay attention to those. So, you know, if the average days on market for this property is 60 days and you're at 75 days and no one's interested, you should probably relook at what's going on with that listing. And like really take a critical look with your sellers as well. So absolutely.
And everything will sell if the price is right.
Exactly.
So we have to factor that in sometimes.
Yes, so. You do. Even if
but that's a discussion for another day, perhaps. Another topic coming up next week or two, the strategic price or marketing adjustment, as we like to call it, instead of we need a price drop.
Yes, exactly.
Use the velvet hammer, not the ball peen hammer.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
I think we're done.
I think we're done. We high five, we made it.
Yes. Woo! Awesome job. We'll let you back on again. How about that?
Yes.
I know you were hoping, going, God, I don't got to go through this again. But. So everybody, have a great week. Check out the weekly huddles. Remember Russ's event. We got the forecast breakfast. If you've got your invites for the awards gala, please RSVP so Kirsten doesn't come and hunt you down personally. That's really scary.
Okay, have a great week. See you.